Hi, we're here with Shelley Stark from Dyste Williams Insurance Company. Shelley, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I've been with Dyste Williams since 2010. Prior to that, I was with TDIC Insurance Solutions. So I've been in the insurance industry with insuring dentists for about since 2003. The best part of my job is building that business relationship that I have with my customers.
So I know that you help dentists pretty much throughout their entire career. So let's start with new dentists. What can you offer new dentists and what services do you provide for maybe newer dentists or dental students?
Okay. The first thing that we do is we educate the young dentists as they get out of school. As they go to school, they do have courses, but it doesn't really stick. So what we do is we educate them first of all on their professional liability. That is the policy that they will have for their entire dental career. We give them the options of the different type of policy form they want to be on, earns or claims made, limits of coverage and so forth. Then we also have an opportunity to offer them disability coverage and health insurance if they need it.
So say you have a newer dentist and then they become a practice owner. What do you help them with in terms of when they're buying a practice and then once they are a practice owner and kind of beyond that time period in their lives?
One of the greatest pleasures that we have in the insurance industry is actually helping a dentist purchase or build a brand new practice. We work with the bankers and so forth. Again, what we do is we educate them on the various coverages that they could have. You've got your basic business owner's policy, which covers the practice, the workers' compensation. There are also professional coverages that they would have, such as employment practices liability, hired and non-owned auto, and the data breach. But most importantly, what we do is make sure that their assets are protected. And that can be done by totally identifying what the cost of the practice is, and then also reviewing the lease, because on the lease there are certain conditions that must be addressed to be compliant with that lease. Maybe they have to have the landlord as an additional insured. We want to make sure that they are on the policy and that we provide the certificate. But then also there's insurance conditions like minimum general liability limits, and most importantly, the cost of what we call the tenant's improvements and betterments. And what that is the cost of rebuilding that practice should there be a catastrophic event. And so we work very closely to make sure that they're protected.
Well, and you mentioned that a lot of times in the lease it's required to have the landlord additionally insured and to have tenant insurance, but also you briefly mentioned the banks. A lot of the banks, in order to purchase a practice, requires you to have some of this insurance. So it's really important to be educated on what insurances you need and are required by the banks. This isn't just you should have it because you should have it. A lot of times it's required in order to actually purchase a practice. Is that correct?
It is indeed. And one of the nice things about having been in the dental community for as long as I have, all of the vendors, whether they're architects, whether they're bankers, etc., we all know one another. And so if we have a dentist that calls in that's practicing, we can ask the questions, and we can also give them leads on these different providers that can assist them.
So now going to the end of a dentist's career, how can you help maybe a retiring dentist or a selling dentist? What sort of services do you offer in that regard? Kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's kind of sad when I get a call from my dentist that they're selling their practice, because again, it's about that business relationship that we've identified over the years. But what we do is identify when they're closing on the practice and not to cancel their policy until then. One of the things that we can do too, because we do make sure that the dental practices are protected, the new purchaser, we can assist them as well with the purchase of this new practice. One of the things that the doctors that are retiring, selling their practices think is that they don't need their professional liability policy anymore. That happens a lot. So they assume that they need to cancel their policy. So the first thing I asked of them is, are you going to continue to keep your dental license? And they say yes. And I says, well, if you're going to keep your dental license, that kind of cues to me that you're thinking of still practicing a little bit. And so when they say that, well, yeah, I think so. So then what we do is I recommend that we put them on part-time status. And then after they sell the practice, then have them contact me, and then we will cancel all the policies that are no longer relevant to them, but the malpractice is the one that they should keep.
Well, and a lot of times in purchase agreements, when they do sell their practice, it's one of the requirements is that the selling dentist continue coverage for a certain period of time, depending on what they have, in order to, just in case something pops up, in the next few years. But it's important to make sure you have that malpractice insurance for a little bit longer.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I find that a lot of the dentists, most of them, probably 98% of the doctors, will continue to give of themselves to volunteer work, etc., sharing and carrying hands, where you need to provide your own coverage and so forth. So they love to give back. I just think they're the best.
So what sets you apart, briefly, what sets you apart from maybe other insurance providers? What sets you and Dyste Williams apart?
Dyste Williams is a fourth generation company now, and we do have an expertise on dentistry. Fortress is our malpractice carrier, and we're in the 5-state area. We also cover probably about 95% of the oral surgeons within the 5-state area. We do understand, we know how to do insurance reviews to protect them. Again, going back to making sure that the leases have been reviewed and so forth. And then we do work with the banks, as I said.
Well, and I think you've been a MDA preferred provider for quite a few years now too, so that really says something about your commitment to dentistry and your, how well of a job that you guys do.
And a lot of that has to do with the service that we provide our customers, bar none. Like I said, the business relationship is so important, and along with that, of course, comes the service that we get. And give to our customers, and I know that they really appreciate that. We're not a company, because we're a small business and so forth, but we're not a company that gets the sale and then, well, that's it. No, it is all about that relationship, and we're here to help and educate.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for being here today and telling us about what you do.
Thank you, Hillary. It's my pleasure.
Thanks.